Hello and welcome back to the Wrestling Group on YouTube. Today I have a little something different for you. I'm going to be talking about myself. Um, so I am going to be talking about how I got into wrestling. You know, the different companies I've watched over the years. Short period of time I got out of wrestling. What brought me back to wrestling and basically what I think of wrestling now. So it's all to do about myself and like I say, my relationship with wrestling, if you like. So I just thought I wanted to do something a little bit different than what I have been doing. And I thought, well, I know a few people have asked me in the past on the group and, you know, Messenger and occasionally even on these YouTube channels about like how I got into wrestling and stuff. So I thought, well, why not do a video? So we'll see how it goes. Doing it all on a whim. I have no notes because it's to do with me, so shouldn't need any notes, but we'll see. So it may well turn out to be a really good video, or it may well turn out to be 40 minutes, an hour of me just rambling on about a load of rubbish. So we shall see. So we'll give it a go, see how we get on. So, but yeah, I've been I've been watching wrestling now for pretty much as long as I can remember. Um, And a lot of people can pinpoint like the first wrestling match they watched, the first wrestling pay per view they watched, you know, and stuff like that. I can't personally remember, and I have been like, I've been thinking about doing this for a couple of weeks. And David Anderson, as always, has done me a terrific decal, and it's even got my face on it. So you've probably avoided clicking on this, or I'm probably talking to no one because you've seen my mug and went, but he's done me a great decal again. But I've been thinking about it now for a couple of weeks, and then especially more since he announced that this is what I was going to do next via YouTube Shorts. So I was trying to pinpoint what it would have been that I'd have watched first, and at what time and what year, and I can't come to a complete decision. What I do know is that I first got into wrestling via the local video shop. So it wasn't like a Blockbuster, but it was like a local one. And you know, going in, you get videotapes and stuff that you could get for say a weekend at a set amount of money. For some of the young people that don't know what a Blockbuster or a video store is, they were videotapes, so it weren't discs. It was a tape um, that you used to obviously pay a couple of pounds for, and you could have it say from like Monday to Sunday. Sorry, from like Friday to Sunday for like a weekend. And then if you wanted it longer, then you could, you know, get it out again. Or if you were late, then you had to pay a late fee. We got fined if we didn't take our videotapes back on time. So from what I've been like say what I've been thinking, I've been speaking to people I grew up with and that, you know, my mum and stuff like that, and trying to pinpoint when it was that I first got into wrestling. So I'm pretty sure it was via the video store. So from what I've seemed to have worked out, this part might not be 100% fact, but from what I'd seem to believe is that we used to watch the A-Team growing up. Big, massive fans of the A-Team. Loved them. You know, Mr. T, Hannibal, Faceman, Hal Mad Murdoch. I mean, if you've ever watched the A-Team, then you're as old as me, or if not older. So we used to watch the A-Team all the time on TV when it was on. So, and they'd done a crossover at one point, obviously, coming up to WrestleMania. They had Hulk Hogan come into the A-Team as Mr. T's friend, and then obviously they faced at WrestleMania 1. They teamed together at WrestleMania 1. So, from what I'm gathering and what I'm understanding from other people and from little bits that I remember myself, so I mean, you're going back years, I might have been 6, maybe 7, something like that at the time. Um, and we were watching the A-Team, and obviously Hulk Hogan come in for a couple of episodes, and then obviously we went into the video shop, and there was Mr. T on this wrestling thing with obviously Hulk Hogan, who'd just been in the A-Team, so which would have been WrestleMania 1. So whether we actually seen anything before that, or whether we seen this later on, I'm not too sure. But from what I gather, the first pay-per-view I think that we watched would have been the very first WrestleMania because of Hulk Hogan's involvement in the A-Team, and then Mr. T's involvement in the WWF. So that is what I'm going with. That's from what I can gather. Is that's how I first got into wrestling, because the first weekly wrestling I remember watching was WCW. I'm going back and looking at some of the old Nitros and stuff. I'm gathering. See, I don't remember watching Nitro at the beginning. When I was a child, so I'm thinking around '97, going based off little bits I can remember and stuff. I think it was WCW in around '97 that we started watching it weekly. The main reason was because it was available on Freeview. We could watch WCW on Freeview, whereas obviously WWF at the time, that was on a sports channel. So, and it was even before they done the likes of Heat and Velocity and stuff like that come later on, that used to play on Sky One of a weekend. So I had no way of getting um anything to do with WWF from that time. We could get stuff previous, like say like the first WrestleMania, but I didn't know anyone that had access to the WWF at the time that would record it. So we watched WCW when I was younger. So that would have been around, I'd say, about '97, I think. So I'd have been 6 at the time, born '91. So yeah, that is my start into wrestling. So I think my start into wrestling would have been through the video store, and it would have been thanks to the A-Team. And then obviously in around '97, Hulk Hogan's there. Again, seems to be a big part of my childhood, Hulk Hogan, doesn't he? Because I do remember all the NWO stuff and everything like that, but I don't remember the stuff beforehand, and I didn't remember Sting before he was the Crow, Sting. Obviously I do now. I've gone back and I've watched loads, and I've watched loads years ago, and I've rewatched it since the network became a thing. But from as a kid, I only remember Sting being obviously with the white face paint and the black bat and stuff like that. So I would say around '97 for weekly. Like I say, it used to be on a Monday night. I think it was on. I'm trying to remember. I think it was on Bravo, maybe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it used to be on a channel called Bravo. So we used to watch WCW every week, which was brilliant. And like I said, at the time, I didn't really know people in school that was watching wrestling. It just didn't seem to be a big thing in our school, until it got to. They used to do this thing where you could bring, I think it was like the end of the year, maybe one day at the end of the year, and it was like bring something with you to school. They used to do it every year. So I had WCW wrestling figures. Shock. As you could probably figure out by all my wrestling videos now. It's a shame I don't have the original ones that I used to have. But my favourite WCW figures were the metal ones, the ones with the magnets in the fists, and they used to connect together and you could flip each other. You had like NWO Hulk Hogan, you had Goldberg, I'm trying to think of the others now, DDP, Kevin Nash, I can't remember the rest from the line. But since I've started collecting over the last however many years, about 5 years now, maybe 4 or 5 years, I've not been able to re-find those figures that weren't already opened. I want to see if I want to see if I can find them unboxed, but never been opened, because I found some in boxes. But if you go through, you'll then realise that they have actually been opened. So I don't want to do that. I want to be able to get them mint if I can, and then open them myself. I've got a couple that I got I got a big bag of figures from Cash Converters at one point, and there was a couple in there that are in really poor condition, but they're ones my daughter loves and plays with. So yeah, so we used to bring these figures in, and we had a wrestling ring as well. I can't remember which one. Probably just one from a car boot sale, because we used to get a couple of wrestling figures from car boot sales and stuff as well. I had a couple of WF ones, but the ones that I loved the most were the metal flip ones, the magnetic WCW figures that they had. So I used to take them in school. So I bring them in school, and then there'd be a couple of lads in the class that I wasn't really friends with, but we spoke and that, but they weren't part of like your little friend groups and stuff that you had in school. So this was primary school, so again probably around 8-9 years of age, and then they bring in their WWF figures. So and the WF figures from back then were a lot better than what the WCW figures were. Even though I had obviously the magnetic flip action. I think it was just after the first Titletron one come out. So if you remember that, it was like a Titletron stage, and then when they brought the figures out, they had the little metal buttons on the bottom of the feet so it would play each of their entrance musics when they come out, like Kurt Angle and people like that. So they had that, plus the wrestling ring, and they had all these figures that I hadn't seen before and I hadn't seen on TV. So it intrigued me. So I was like asking them questions and stuff. So we started playing. Obviously together we had WCW and WF figures, and we were just having these matches that had never happened. We were just basically just absolutely hammering each other with these figures and stuff, and then we'd sit there and do our own little signs that we'd stand up at the side, and it was a great day. It was fantastic. We'd have like Kurt Angle socks and NWO for life and stuff, and just have them at the sides as well. It was a fantastic day. Absolutely loved them. I think we've done it like twice, probably year 5 and year 6 in school. So there's a couple of people then that I did speak to a bit about wrestling, and they didn't know too much about WCW, and I didn't know anything about the WF, obviously past what I'd seen on the videotapes. So it started to get me obviously interested in, well, who are these people, you know what I mean? Like The Rock and Austin and all that. I didn't know of them at the time. Which is mad to think, because I'm a massive Stone Cold fan now. He's probably my favourite wrestler of all time. But when he was first in his peak in like 98, 99, even early 2000, like I wasn't watching him at that time because I was watching WCW because it was free on TV, so I'd watch it. We had, I think NTL was a thing at the time, which is where we used to get our Freeview. And I don't even think he used to get Sky One on that. I think that was just exclusive for Sky customers. So, like, I was not seeing any WF stuff. So anyway, so that was like primary school. So then we go into secondary school, and as you go into secondary school, the internet becomes more of a big thing. In IT we get taught computers and stuff, and the internet becomes a massive thing. So that's when I start looking at what's going on in the other side of the wrestling. What am I missing out on? So you're talking now early 2000 stuff. So I'm finding out basically by going out online to find out what's happening each week. So this was around the time when you could literally go on the website and you'd find out like the results. So you'd find out and it'd tell you bits about what happened in each segment in each match, and then they'd have little video clips so you could watch them as well. So that's how I was getting my WE fix at the time. Obviously this was then when WCW had gone out of commission, and so I was doing that for a while, and then when we upgraded to another broadband, I can't remember who we went to after NTL, another Freeview, we started getting Sky One. So then when early 2000s, when Velocity started becoming a thing after Burn Heat, the bottom line, these were all shows that they'd show on a Saturday morning, early hours on a Saturday morning, so that you could watch what Raw and SmackDown that you'd missed that week. So, and then they'd have like the odd random match that they throw in as well. So that's how I was continuing to watch wrestling. Obviously we didn't get the pay-per-views and often, so I'd have to wait until they showed you a couple of highlights or stills from the pay-per-views to find out what happened. Well, I'd normally go online. Like, I remember getting ready for school. I'd be like trying to get me blazer and my shirt and my tie on while I had a big PC. You didn't have tablets and stuff, and you couldn't get the internet on your phone then. You know, I had a big PC sat up in the corner of my room, and I'm typing in WWE.com, and I'm scrolling and reading and watching little clips and stuff as I'm trying to get ready for school to find out what was going on. And then I could talk with my mates, oh, this happened, that happened. So then I used to go to my dad's every week when I was a kid. Um, yeah, we used to go to my dad's every week when I was a kid. Sorry, I just find it hard still to talk about my dad sometimes. So yeah, we used to go to my dad's once a week, and he had Sky, and he used to have a thing called the Wrestling Channel. Um, but they didn't have like WE and stuff like that on. But they used to have early Ring of Honor, and used to get early TNA as well. So that's how I come across them companies. It was mainly because I didn't sleep very well. I've never really slept very well, and so my dad would go to sleep, and you know we only had the TV in the bed in the living room that had Sky. So you know the TV that was in the bedroom was like DVDs and stuff, or you used to get like the first 5 channels, and we used to have what channels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just via normal aerial. So obviously, my dad only had a small flat, so he'd say to me, he'd be like, "Are you tired? Are you staying up, or are you going to bed?" Because he'd try and put me to bed, and then I'd always get back up again because I just couldn't sleep. So my dad would take the bed, and then I'd go into the living room. So I'd just be like, I'll just watch TV, and then I'll fall asleep when I fall asleep. So I used to watch Ring of Honor early doors. You know, with Ring of Honor, there wasn't really a hell of a lot that I was watching that I was enjoying so much. In the very early stages, it was mainly for me. Ring of Honor was the filler time before I got to the TNA. That was the part that really interested me. You know, these guys like AJ Styles was wrestling at the time. He was doing stuff that I'd never seen anyone do before. I thought it was just absolutely unreal. We had Samoa Joe, who's obviously a big guy but can move like a little guy, and Christopher Daniels. Like Christopher Daniels was my favorite in TNA. The Fallen Angel gimmick, I just absolutely loved it so much. You know, he looked so cool coming out with his hood and that, and he used to be like that. And what was the hand sign he used to do? And he used to be like, yeah, absolutely loved Christopher Daniels. So obviously, when Christopher Daniels and AJ Styles become a thing as being a team and not just against each other, you know, that was like peak tag team for me. But again, like I was going in school and I was speaking to people in school, and you know, no one knew what this company was, and no one else had seen it. So I found it hard. Like I always seemed to be as a kid, I always seemed to be watching wrestling that no one else was really watching at the time. Because you know, like I was like, oh yeah, you know, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, you know, they could beat the Dudley Boys, they could beat, you know, whoever. And then obviously I think America's Most Wanted as well. Like I loved America's Most Wanted as a team, you know, so LAX as well. So yeah, again, it gets into TNA as well as WE. And then I think it might have been about year 8 or 9. I found some lad. I say I found some lad. I found a boy. Because when you're in secondary school, you mix classes, so you're not just with the same class. So I got put into a class for whatever it was, English or something like that. And I just got speaking to this lad that I was sat next to, and it turns out he was big into wrestling as well at the time. So again, this like early 2000s. Um, but his parents would allow him to like buy the pay-per-views and stuff. So like he would buy the pay-per-view and record it, to be able to record the pay-per-view off the TV, and then I could watch it. So like tape trading sort of thing, but in a way, because I wasn't giving him any money or another tape back, I was just taking the tapes, watching them, and then handing them to a couple of other people. So we used to get to watch some pay-per-views that way. Or I'd stay over at his when there was a pay-per-view on that night, and we'd wait to see if his parents would fall asleep, and then we'd sneak downstairs and see how much of it we could watch before we got caught out because we were being too loud. In fact, I remember the pay-per-view that we did that for, and we got found out in like I think about the second match, and it was absolutely livid. It was New Year's Revolution 2005. So it was the Elimination Chamber one with like Batista, Triple H, Randy Orton, all in the Elimination Chamber at the same time. I think it was Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit. I can't remember who else. Kane, maybe. I think. But this was the pay per view, and I can't even remember the card now. I should have really looked it up. This is where I do need notes. So I know that we'd snuck back downstairs because obviously in the UK it starts at 1 a.m. in the morning. So we'd stayed up and, you know, we were waiting for them to go to sleep. And they must have been asleep just after midnight. So we waited until, let's say, about 5 to. Snuck downstairs, put it on, and we were like, yes, this is going to be the best thing ever. Bear in mind, we got like school the next day. So probably wasn't a good idea. I think we got about maybe just after the first match or halfway through the first match, and we've been a bit loud, quite excited to see wrestling live. And then his mum come down and basically wiped the floor with us and told us we had to go to bed. We were devastated, and then I don't think we fell asleep till about 4 o'clock anyway because we were fuming and we were trying to guess what was happening at the time. So we ended up staying up past the time of the pay-per-view would have finished anyway, but didn't get to watch it live, so that was absolutely devastating. But yeah, so that, like I say, that was New Year's Revolution. But yeah, so it became a thing where I had this lad who used to be able to record stuff. So I used to go to my dad's who used to be able to watch like TNA, so I got to see all that sort of that side of it and Ring of Honor, and then obviously I got to watch WWE through a friend of mine who used to record the pay-per-views, and obviously I had to catch up on the Raw and the SmackDown on a Saturday morning. So normally for the weekend I used to stay at my nan and granddad's. I used to go to this on Friday after school, and then on the Saturday we'd stay for the next day, we being me and my brother. And I always remember trying to get up early first. I mean, if you've got a sibling, then you'll know this is the thing that we used to do for some strange reason. You, instead of having lying, you get up as early as possible because you want to control the remote, even though most of the time you just both watched exactly the same thing anyway. But there'd be like one program that you'd watch that they didn't like, and there'd be like one program, and that's pretty much it. But you made sure you had hold of that remote because that was a big deal. And if you went to the toilet, you took that remote with you. I don't know, like say we watched pretty much the same stuff. I always remember my nan turning around saying to me, she was like, oh, you'll grow out of it, it's pathetic, it's this, it's that. She used to sit there and she'd see it on the TV, and especially like with some of the storylines that were going on early years of the 2000s, like when we had Undertaker be buried alive by Kane, and then he's on Raw like the next week, and he's doing a memorial service, and my nan was just ripping into it, and I was like, all right, Nan, I can't hear what he's saying. He's just buried his brother alive. I need to know why. And then it'd go dark, and like the ring would shake and stuff. And she was just like proper ripping into it, and she was like, "When you're an adult, when you're 18, you won't watch this anymore." And it's like, yeah, well, I'm 32 and I'm still watching it, Nan. So so yeah, so that was like early doors there, and then see, like we never really owned Sky Sports when we were growing up. Like it's expensive, you know what I mean. I think the only time I owned Sky Sports and BT Sports was when I first moved into my own house, with my wife, and I paid for the lot. But it was like £120 a month, which was ridiculous. But I was paying it so I could record Raw, SmackDown, and then obviously watch it the next day. But then I found I was skipping most of it because I wasn't enjoying it as much. But yeah, that was much later on. So obviously I remember trying to work out now when it was that I come out of watching wrestling. I remember at one point that I started watching just TNA, because like Christian had gone over. So what was that, about 2005, 2006? Christian had gone over, started making a name for himself in TNA, and Kurt Angle had joined, Jeff Hardy had joined. A lot of the names that I was enjoying watching WWE when I turning up in TNA and doing things there. And obviously they still had the wrestlers that I was watching anyway when I was watching TNA, in the likes of like Bobby Roode and AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley. There was all these stars that I'd been watching for years. The Abyss, I've been watching for years that I'd enjoyed, and then they were getting these extra influx of other wrestlers and characters that I'd been enjoying in WWE. And then WWE just sort of started to feel stale to me, so I started not watching so much WWE, and then I eventually stopped watching WWE, and just watching TNA. But I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit because I've just remembered. I remember buying our first, well, say buying. I remember getting the first wrestling pay per view on DVD. We went to Asda when we were kids again, me, my brother, my nan, and my granddad, and she said, you can get yourselves something, for what reason, maybe we were good or something that weekend. And the Royal Rumble 2004 was out on DVD. It was the latest pay per view, so it probably not been on long. And it was on DVD. I think it was about £20. So I think she said we had like £10 each, and it was 20 quid. And he turned around and said to her, this is what we want. And she's like, yeah, but you'll have to have it between you. And we're like, yeah, it's fine. And then she was like, yeah, but it's got an 18 on it. And we were like, yeah, it's just because of the blood. And she was like, what do you mean because of the blood? And he was like, oh, there's a bit of bleeding in it. It's because of the blood. Anyway, she eventually caved, and they bought us Royal Rumble 2004. So that was the first DVD I ever owned of a wrestling DVD, which I still have to this day. And then the first one I bought myself, I think was out of my Christmas money. So I'm starting to think if Royal Rumble was January 2004, in fact, it would have been birthday money, so it would have been 3 to 4 months probably afterwards. It come out on DVD. So, I rewatched that to death. It's my favourite Royal Rumble. Absolutely loved when Chris Benoit went to 130 because, again, like I hadn't seen the history of other wrestlers doing it beforehand. So I'd watched the Royal Rumble 2004 and watched Benoit do that, and I thought it was, phenomenal. Absolutely loved the last man standing match between Triple H and Shawn Michaels. So, like I say, that was the first pay-per-view I owned on DVD. I think the first pay-per-view of WWE's I watched in full, I want to say, apart from like the videotapes and that, I want to say WrestleMania 18. I want to say it was the first one, I think, that I watched, and that was because in school we used to have something called the theatre. Now, it was a place you could go and they'd have a big pull-down screen and you could watch things on TV while you had something to eat. So obviously I was on packed lunch, so I'd go in, and sometimes it'd be like a film, sometimes it'd be, well, more often than not it was The Simpsons. But then for a period of time before parents started to complain, there'd be someone who'd record the latest pay-per-view and they'd bring it in and we'd watch it over like 3 lunchtimes. So I'd always make sure I was first in there so I didn't miss anything. So I think by doing that, WrestleMania 18 would have been the first pay-per-view I'd have watched. Sort of at the time, if you like, so it would have been like, it'd have gone on the Sunday night and we'd have watched it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So that'd have been WrestleMania 18. So yeah, I think the first pay-per-view WWE's we watched live might have been with Andy Lewis, who was admin on the wrestling group. I think we went round to his to watch WrestleMania live. I think the first one we watched was, what year was it? When Randy Orton faced The Undertaker for the streak? Because I remember that being a match on there because I really wanted Randy Orton to win because I was well sold on his whole Legend Killer gimmick, and I thought, if the Legend Killer was going to do anything, then he'd beat the streak, which wasn't really a main streak then. It was like 13 or 14, maybe 15 years. I'm trying to remember what WrestleMania that was now. 21, 22, around that. Let me know in the comments if you remember, because I can't remember and I'm not going to look it up because I haven't got my phone, because that's what I do these on. So if you know which WrestleMania it was that Randy Orton faced The Undertaker, let me know in the comments. And that was the first one that I watched live. We went to Andy's house and we paid for it and we stayed up and we watched it, as we did with a couple of Raws and SmackDowns, because he had Sky, Sky Sports, so we managed to watch a couple live Raw and SmackDowns. But yeah, so I'm trying to think now when I come out of wrestling. So I started then watching just TNA on its own for a while. and I wasn't really overly interested in WWE. I'd watch some pay-per-views, watch the odd shows and that, but there wasn't enough really to keep me interested. So then, I don't know why, but then I just stopped watching TNA, so it just became a period where I think about a year or two in my life, I just didn't watch wrestling anymore. I didn't even go on the websites to check out, see what was going on. I want to say around 2009, 2010, because I remember not, it's like since I've gone back and I've watched that, I remember I didn't see Randy Orton's Royal Rumble win, which was 2009 at the time it happened. And because obviously he was one of my favourite wrestlers at that time. In fact, he was my favourite wrestler at that time, before I come out of wrestling, then when I went back. And I don't remember watching Kane's World Heavyweight Championship reign, which was 2010 after he won Money in the Bank. I remember watching that live because Kane again is one of my favourite wrestlers, so I had to then go back and watch all this after they obviously got back into it. And so, like I say, it was probably around maybe 2009, 10, possibly 11 as well, 2 to 3 years. I just had no interest in wrestling anymore. I don't know whether it burnt out, whether there just wasn't enough at the time when I stopped watching that was keeping me in. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I come out of wrestling for a good period of time. In fact, it might have even been longer, you know. I'm trying to work out the dates now of when things were. I remember I wasn't watching it in 2009 because that was when Randy Orton won the Royal Rumble. I didn't watch it in 2010. I can't remember when I come back. 2012 maybe. I can't remember. Right, so maybe when I talk about it a bit more, I might remember. So anyway, it comes out of watching wrestling for a period of time, and me and my wife, now we were going out at the time. You know, say we're going out. We were engaged. We weren't married. And we were talking about things, and I don't know why. But I think it was we had a week or two where we were really ill with the flu, and you know, we just talked and that, because we couldn't really do a lot. So that was that was the 2 week period that I managed to teach her how to play FIFA as well on the Xbox 360. And we just started talking about things, and said, you know, I said I used to be into wrestling, blah blah. And she's like, oh yeah, I watched it years ago as a kid with my cousin, and she mentioned like the Undertaker. So then we were talking about things, and I was like talking about the Undertaker, and I started talking and telling her about Undertaker versus Kurt Angle, from No Way Out in 2005, 6. Oh my god, my mind's gone. Like I've always been dead good with days and years and dates and that, but since I've turned this camera on, my mind's gone. So when they faced it No Way Out, I started telling her about that, and then as I'm telling her about it, I can feel myself getting really like into what I'm saying, and I was like, and then I was telling her about, because it's the same pay-per-view that they had as Randy Orton. Oh no, so 2006 was, yeah, No Way Out, Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker, 2006, yeah. So I started telling her about that, and I was like, look, I said, I have it on DVD. I said, I can always bring it down sometime. We can just stick it on if you want. So she was like, yeah, you can do if you want, you know. I think, you know, we were only a couple of years in, so we're trying to impress each other. Like, I was watching bloody Coronation Street and EastEnders at one point, trying to impress her somehow by me liking crap that she watches, and would impress her. So yeah, I remember bringing some DVDs down, because I used to stay for a long period of time at his, at a mum's. So we'd watch some of the pay-per-views, some of the matches I'd skip, and some pay-per-views we'd watch in full. But that's how I got back into it. I got back into it by us talking about Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker, and I could feel myself dead passionate when I was speaking about it. So that is the actual match, even though it was years later from that match. That was the actual match that got me back into watching wrestling, because then I was just rewatching old wrestling DVDs, and I was teaching her about Degeneration X, which she loved, you know. Then she started to really like Shawn Michaels, so then anything with Shawn Michaels, and I was bringing that out, like the Shawn Michaels DVD, just bringing that down. At the Rock DVD, Stone Cold DVD, she was bringing that down. So I was bringing like new wrestling, well, not new, my old wrestling DVDs, but new to her wrestling DVDs down each week, and then we'd just sit and we'd watch them and that. So then when we moved, when she moved with her mum to the new address, I ended up getting Virgin for the house because her parents couldn't get it, blacklisted. So I ended up getting Virgin in my name. So I started to pay for the sports packages. I think BT Sports come with the package I got, and then Sky Sports you'd have to pay separate. So anyway, I paid separately for the sports because like I'm a massive football fan as well. So obviously I'd watch all the matches and that, and I'd watch them there. And then eventually I moved in there anyway. Um, so yeah, trying to remember what I'm saying now. So I think the year we went back, sure, the first pay per view we watched live together, we said we didn't know whether we were going to watch it or not because we were checking out then where the world of wrestling was up to and what was going on and what had happened, trying to catch up on a lot of stuff just by looking online and stuff like that. So then I figured out, it's just before this pay per view that's coming up, WrestleMania. Used to watch it all the time. It's the big marquee match that was advertised. I'm sure this was the year we got back into wrestling. It might have been. It might have been a good couple of years then. Was The Rock versus John Cena. Now I'm pretty sure that's the actual first pay per view we watched live together, and the first pay per view that then got me to start watching weekly again. I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was The Rock versus John Cena, because obviously The Rock was massive when we were both kids, so she knew who The Rock was, and obviously John Cena was massive from when I was watching it earlier. So I'm sure it might have been that much of a time chunk. If anyone watching this is sad or intrigued and wants to know, work out from say 2009 to I can't remember which WrestleMania that it was where The Rock faced John Cena first, and that'll be the period of time that I stopped watching weekly wrestling. Then we ended up getting into like a big binge of it again and started going for years. And I was like I say, I was recording in the Raws and the Smackdowns, and we started watching that. And then I remember in 2014, I remember there being a big announcement that was going to happen online through the WWE website at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. So I remember staying up late for that. Um, and then getting it up on my phone and watching it, and they announced the W Network, and I think it was Shawn Michaels and Triple H might have announced it. I was watching it and I was like, I've stayed up for hours, and all you give me, oh yeah, it's just going to be something on the internet. Oh, okay then. And I remember for like the first year as well, when the network dropped, it was not out in the UK, so we all had to get these VPNs or whatever and start selecting um, that we lived in these different states. We'd have to put these random addresses in like Texas and Alabama and stuff like that just to be able to subscribe to the WWE network when it first was a thing, which is mad to think about now. Um, because we still have the WWE network here in America. It's just Peacock now. Um, so yeah, so then WWE network became things. Then I started to run away with stuff. I could then go and rewatch these years of wrestling that I'd missed. And I'd watch pay per view after pay per view, and I'd watch, and then they started putting all the old Raws and Smackdowns on, so I started watching Raw and Smackdown that I hadn't seen before, and I just got absolutely fully invested in the whole thing again, and I did for a long, long period of time. Um, and then obviously NXT became a thing. You know, Kevin Owens come up um, from NXT with the NXT title to face John Cena. So that was my first proper introduction to NXT. So it was like, oh, who's this guy? He just beat John Cena in his first match. And then NXT became a thing on the WWE Network. And NXT on the WWE Network, you know, the red and yellow, if you like, was absolutely, there was no other wrestling going on at that time that was better. It was just superb. And then after a while, we didn't watch Raw and SmackDown as much and just solely focused on the NXT side of it. And like we were heavily invested in NXT with, you know, Bayley, Sasha, their whole storyline that they were having at the time. You know, Becky Lynch, massive fan of Becky's, especially in the NXT days. And then, you know, even through going up to the likes of Oscar, and you know, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, you know, all these names, and then it just kept getting better and better and better. And NXT was just red and gold was just black and gold was just absolutely superb. So And so yeah, we were fully investing in NXT and we'd watch it together, and it became our thing, and it didn't just become my thing anymore. And that's a big part of it. I really enjoyed it. Became our thing. It was something we could do together. And then obviously as we had the kids and they were growing up, then the kids started to enjoy watching wrestling as well. And it's now to this day it's a family thing. It's a whole family event. Like we all sit down and watch wrestling, and we'll sit down and watch a pay per view together and that. And it's something that, I mean, it's hard in regards to like when I'm running a group and when I'm running YouTube, and when I'm on Facebook and when I'm on Twitter and stuff, because a lot of the time I work straight after a pay per view's been on, or a Dynamite, a Collision, or the Raw, or the SmackDown, or whatever it is I want to watch at the time. Then it can be a day or two before we actually manage to sit down and watch it. And I've seen some bits online, or I've tried to stay offline so I don't spoil it for myself. But it is harder, but it's more enjoyable to watch it as a family. Like, I don't know if you watch it on your own, with your kids, with your parents, or whoever. In fact, let me know in the comments, how do you enjoy watching wrestling? Do you enjoy watching it with family? Do you enjoy watching it with friends? Do you just enjoy watching it on your own? You know, let me know in the comments. I want to know how you enjoy watching wrestling. So, like say WWE Network became a thing, NXT became a thing, and so much wrestling. And then I found the world of New Japan, and I started finding all the stuff about New Japan that was going on, and then I found New Japan World, which was, I think, originally about £5, £6 a month. And that was back when, before they used to charge it extra for pay per views as well. So you get all the pay per views throughout the year, you get all the tournaments throughout the year, and then I was starting to find these guys I'd never heard of before, like Shinsuke Nakamura, Naito, Tanahashi, Takahashi, and then obviously then came the likes of Okada and Ibushi, and it just opened up a whole other world. And then eventually the likes of Will Ospreay and Jay White, it just opened up a whole new world. And then at one point I was literally just watching NXT in New Japan. I became obsessed with New Japan at one point. I absolutely loved it, with the Bullet Club, and there's Kenny Omega, and Cody Rhodes is going on to the Indies and doing things. So we'd stayed watching Ring of Honor for a while too. My missus especially, she loved Jay Lethal. So one of my favourite times in Ring of Honor was the time when Jay Lethal was holding both the Ring of Honor Television Championship and the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. It was just phenomenal. So we were watching a lot of wrestling at one point, and then I think this is around the time that the wrestling group was actually born. It started then as a WhatsApp group, because I started a WhatsApp group with, I think it was about 4 of us originally, maybe 5 of us in the WhatsApp group, where we talk wrestling. Because as an adult, other than like the odd one or two people, like there's not enough people that I was in connection with at the time that would talk wrestling. So I created a group where anyone that would actually be interested in wrestling, we'd just talk all things wrestling. So then that was a thing for about 6 months. And then I said, well, what if we took to Facebook and tried to make it grow? And I was told like that the other lads in the group were like, I don't know. And I was like, well, look, I see a lot of stuff to do with wrestling on Facebook. Said, and then when I've shared it and that, there's people that I'm friends with that would be like, oh, do you still watch that? I used to watch that when I was a kid until it was fake. And I was just like, I don't want to take these people off on Facebook, because other than that, I get on with them fine. But at the same time, I can't be dealing with that every time I want to post something to do with wrestling on Facebook. So I was told that it wouldn't work, and it wouldn't grow. But I did it anyway, and we created the group, and it's been going for a long time now, and we have over 3,000 members, which is again is a reason for this YouTube becoming a thing. And when I go through, just a little thing personally, like when I go through tough times through my life, I throw myself into things. At one point it was alcohol, which was never a good choice. And then at one point it was the wrestling group, creating it as a group on Facebook. And then the next bad period of time that I had in my life, I created this is Geek Talk, and threw everything into that, which is another group on Facebook. If you're not part of any of these groups, look them up. There's the wrestling group on Facebook. Look it up, add us. This is Geek Talk. Look that up as well. Add us on that. That is just where we talk all things to do with like Marvel, DC, Pokemon, PlayStation, Xbox, Walking Dead, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, all that sort of stuff that everyone loves. That's on that group. So look that up. And I've just created a new one as well recently called All Football. Again, going through another bad period of creating another group and giving myself more stuff to do in my spare time to just throw myself into. And at the beginning of this year, in like January, February time, we had absolutely one of the hardest times in our lives. Personally, I won't go into detail over it, but this is when I decided, I'd done a couple of unboxing videos. They hadn't really got many views. I think I've had about 16 people following me on YouTube. Just every now and again, I just throw a random video up, unboxing a Funko Pop, unboxing a wrestling figure. It didn't really take anywhere. So then, obviously, at the beginning of the year, I had a lot of time in my hand to come out of work. I lost my job. I was on the sick because, with a lot of stuff that was going on. So I threw myself into the YouTube channel, and this is what it's become now. I've been recording at this point my 500th video, and I have, I think, 360 something followers, subscribers. So, it shows that, things can be done through when you have bad times. If you throw yourself into things, but throw yourself into the right things, you can come out with some really good stuff. So hopefully I'll keep growing this and it'll become massive. And again, this is a video I should have done a couple of weeks ago, but again, I've been going through a tough time, so it's took me a while to be able to get in and to record this. So, but I'm glad I'm doing it. But yeah, so to round it off, like I say, we got a New Japan became a thing. So we started watching New Japan, started watching Raw, SmackDown. I started watching the odd TNA again around the times of like Matt Hardy and Drew McIntyre being there as champs. So I started watching that because that was easy to access on TV at the time too. And Ring of Honor we used to watch as well. We used to get all of our wrestling on there used to be a watch wrestling app at one point, or Wrestling Observer or something, on the Fire Stick. We just had all the latest wrestling on, so we watched most of it through that. So we pretty much just threw ourselves into, I pretty much threw myself into creating the group and building the brand of the wrestling group. And then I've done conventions over the years. The first wrestler I ever met in person was Hardcore Holly, thanks to Pete Blackman, who done. He had a wrestling shop in Birkenhead, and he used to do some meet and greets. I met Hardcore Holly there, and he was the first wrestler I'd ever met. That was a good few years back now. I met some great names with him. Like I say, Hardcore Holly was one, Carlito was another. Will Ospreay. I met Will Ospreay in Birkenhead for about 15 quid. You'd be lucky if you get him for about 100 quid now because he's a massive name, massive star. Abyss from TNA, Jimmy Havoc as well, who, before we knew how much of a bad guy he was. And then we'd, done conventions over the years, met like Chris Jericho, Sting, Ric Flair, Mick Foley, Cesaro, Sheamus, Matt Hardy. The list just goes on and on and on. There's some of the wrestlers I've been able to meet over the years, Matt Cardona, Pac, Lucha Brothers. It just goes on and on. I met Kane at an airport in Orlando. But I want to round this video out anyway because I don't want it to go any longer than an hour. So yeah, that is how we got into wrestling. Then obviously we, started to take a dip in WE as the product became a bit more stale and a bit more less must watch, must see. I started going back and rewatching some old stuff again until, Chris Jericho ended up going to New Japan, and that created a buzz again. And at that point I was pretty much just solely watching New Japan and NXT, and then that became a massive thing. And then obviously out of that become AEW, and ever since AEW I've watched every single Dynamite, watched most Rampages, and I've watched every single Collision, and we've watched every single pay-per-view, and we do that as a family. And my daughter's favourite wrestler right now is Darby Allin. My favourite wrestler is Jon Moxley. My wife's favourite wrestler is Darby Allin. my son's favourite wrestler, I'd probably say, because he doesn't talk and he can't tell you, just see what his biggest reactions are. So if you go off a current active wrestler, that, well, technically it's still John Cena because he is still technically around, or he's around again, if you like. He does like Roman Reigns as well, to be fair. But he really likes Orange Cassidy of AEW. So there we are. We are big AEW fans. But I still always watch WA. I've watched quite a lot of the pay-per-views over the last year or so, which I wasn't doing at one point. So I wasn't watching any at all. But I think with WA now, it's just, unless they're going to start changing it and taking it to heights that it used to be at, I think for me, I'll just watch the odd pay-per-view and the odd matches that I want to watch. Like, I'll always be a Cody Rhodes fan. I'll always be a Seth Rollins fan, a Kevin Owens fan. So until they start putting on like things that aren't as predictable and things you want to watch, then I won't really be tuning in and out of that. But having said that, I still watch the WWE Network, and I still go back and watch like a lot of stuff from years ago. Like 2004 is one of my favourite wrestling years for the WWE, and I'll go and rewatch that all day long. And as you know by videos on here, I've started rewatching WCW Nitro and doing reviews on the episodes, so I need to get back into that because I haven't done that for a few weeks out there, but I will be getting back into it. So that is just a bit about me and my delve into wrestling, how I got into wrestling, and the things that I've enjoyed from wrestling, the different companies I've watched in wrestling. So there you have it. Let me know if you liked the video. Let me know if there's anything else you want to know about me and to do with my life in wrestling. Leave me questions in the comment section, I suppose. Leave me a comment, give me a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And just let me know, is this a good video, bad video, in between video? Let me know if you made it to the end as well, because it's like 50 odd minutes. So, but thank you as always for watching, and remember, stay tuned for more wrestling related content coming your way, hopefully very soon.